Hello, fellow beach maniacs and island music lovers. Welcome to the Beach Maniac Island Music Podcast, where we dive into the stories behind the music. I'm your host, the Beach Maniac himself, Bill Hurley. All right, today's guest on the Beach Maniac Island Music Podcast is one of the secret weapons behind many of your favorite Trop Rock tracks, whether he's performing live on stage, laying down killer drum tracks in his Florida studio, producing and engineering records, or just being the guy every artist calls when they need musical magic. Jax Bowers is everywhere in the world of island music. He's worked with some of the biggest names in Trop Rock: Sonny Jim, Monallo, Mark Mulch, Jonas Lorence, Jesse Rice, Donny Brewer, and so many more. And there's a good chance that when you hear a Trop Rock song on the radio, Jax had a hand in it. So I'm excited to have him today on the Beach Maniac Island Music Podcast. Jax, welcome aboard, my friend.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
Wonderful. So you're kind of as I mentioned, a one-man Trop Rock factory, drumming, harmonizing, producing, engineering, recording. Before we take a deep dive into that, give us a big picture. What are all the hats you wear in the Trop Rock world?
Oh, yeah, I wear a lot of hats. I mean, I'm a drummer first and foremost. I've been playing drums for 40 years. But, I always say, like, at this point in my career, it's a nice balance between producing and drumming. And, I'm a songwriter myself, and I produce a lot of the stuff you hear. So it's a nice mix of me behind the drums, me behind my mixer, with my production hat, my drum hat. So, it's a lot, but every day is different.
Oh, I can imagine. How do you fit all that into a busy schedule that also includes traveling and performing?
Well, that's always, that's always the thing. It's like, again, it's an odd mix of me going 100 feet out the back door of my house to my studio or traveling the world, because that's part of my job. But yeah, it's all scheduling, when I do work when I'm on the road, when I do the ship gigs, I have my Mac, and I'm always producing or mixing or editing or writing, or always something.
Right. And always something is right, because this is a recent social media post that I have that you put, I think it was on Facebook recently. And it says, it's the Trop 40 of Radio A1A for that week. Mm-hmm. And it says Monallo is sitting at number 14 with Moonlight, and you had a big hand in Monallo. I know you played drums on it and produced it, right?
Oh yeah, Monallo and I are, making his record, and we're like a little trio thing. We work a lot together.
Right. And then it says I had the pleasure of playing on and producing number 23, number 31, number 34, number 36, and number 21 and 33 were recorded here at my Mudcut South studio. So that's pretty amazing that you have a hand in that many things just in one Trop Rock countdown.
Yeah, I'm very blessed. It's pretty cool.
So over the years, you've worked with artists from many different genres, but specifically, you seem to have focused in now on Trop Rock. Why did you become the go-to guy for Trop Rock musicians in particular?
Well, I still work on a lot of different stuff. I do Trop Rock stuff. I do ska stuff, reggae stuff. I have my hand in a lot of stuff, but Trop Rock just seemed to take off for me. I've been playing this music for half my life, Buffett music and Trop Rock music, and I don't know, it just kind of took over. So on a given week, I'll work on 5 or 6 different projects or songs or EPs or records, and most of them will be Trop Rock vein. So, but it's, I just ran with it.
You mentioned that, and I didn't know this, you mentioned that you also are a songwriter.
Yes.
Have you written some of the Trop Rock songs that we hear on the radio?
Nothing that's, I don't think I've co-written anything. Well, I co-wrote, edit that out. Co-wrote a song with Paul Rausch a couple of years ago that we kind of did while we were down in Belize. But I'm working on a lot of my own stuff right now, actually, trying to get some of my stuff finished and out. But I'm always working on somebody else's stuff. So my stuff kind of goes to the back burner, but it's coming soon. A lot of people don't know I sing either. So that's.
I was going to ask that question.
Yeah, that's.
I know you. I've seen you harmonize on some of the videos, but I haven't seen you as a lead singer.
Yeah, it's coming because I'm going to put some of my stuff out probably by the end of the summer. So yeah,
Right.
I do play guitar, piano, bass, ukulele. I mean, I'm terrible at all of it. They're just writing tools. I just,
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be sitting here at the console or behind my drums. That's my place. With a guitar, ukulele in my hand, it's just for writing. You're never going to see me play guitar live. I'll tell you that. Well, I shouldn't say never, but it's most likely not going to happen.
Okay. So you mentioned your stuff. When you say your stuff, you're talking about songs that you have written.
Yes.
And then what are you doing with them? Do you have a band that you're putting them together, the songs together with, or where do you go with it once you write a song like that?
Well, the songs I've written, I want to put those out just to see what they do. But we have talked about doing some of my songs with either Monallo or my buddy Pete, who plays with Monallo actually, the bass player, sometimes guitar player. But I also have some of my songs, what I call my drum music. I've done scores where it's just drums and percussion. It's like melodic drum stuff, and I actually had a couple of my songs in a Amazon Prime series called Surf Girls Hawaii. So it's like
Really?
that's like it's B-roll stuff. It's nothing featured. They'll be surfing.
Yeah.
You'll hear there's tribal drums in the back and stuff. I'm not exactly Hawaiian, but they use some of my stuff for that show. So that's pretty neat too. That's another side of it.
How did that come about?
Actually, that came about through some work I'm doing on a film. My friend Ed works for Ed Burns. I'm sure you know who Ed Burns is. He's like really big actor. He's been in a million movies. And Ed has been known to turn down major films to fund his own movies. And I guess pre-COVID. So it's been a long time coming because they've put the movie off a couple times, but we're still doing work on the soundtrack and stuff. And I don't remember exactly who, but through that camp, if you will, is how I got with the Amazon people, and that's how I got a couple of my drum songs in that show.
Interesting.
It's a great show, by the way, too. So if you get a chance to check it out, yeah.
So how old is it? How long has it been out?
The first season was out, I think, last year. 12 months ago, 18 months ago. It's still on Prime, though. Yeah.
Okay. And what is it called again?
Surf Girls Hawaii.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds like fun.
It's a whole series. Yeah, it's neat.
Awesome. So you're joining us right now from the Mudcut South Studios, also
Correct.
known as the Hit Hut in beautiful Englewood, Florida.
Yes.
Let's talk some more about that. Tell me about the Hit Hut. What goes on there? What's a typical day like?
Well, as you know, a lot of the stuff pre-production or recording or vocal overdubs or guitars, like today, I'm just importing some tracks that came in from Pensacola. I'm producing a track for a new client of mine named Justin Culvert. I don't know if you've heard of him. Great songwriter.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Pensacola Gulf Shores guy. I actually did not meet him when I was up there, because the last 2 years from meeting the Minds, I was in Gulf Shores. But friends of ours hooked him and I up. I have heard some of his stuff. He knows who I am, so we decided to work together. So we, I think like last Wednesday, prime example, Pete came over. We, the track was sent to us like pre-production track. He just played it with his phone. Pete and I sit here and record the drums and the bass and the guts of the song. And then we send it to Pensacola to Justin. And he goes into a studio and sings his own song and then sends me the tracks like he was here with me, but he's, in Pensacola.
Yeah.
And then I put it together and we put the song, and next thing you know, it's out on the radio.
Just like that.
It's pretty wild, yeah.
And I was going to ask about the changes in technology and music production, because what you just described 10 years ago probably wouldn't have happened that way, right?
Well, maybe 10 years ago. But even when I got into it, I'm a fairly young guy, but I've been doing this for a while. But going back mid-90s, early 90s, mid-90s, when I started going into record in studios, yeah, you're absolutely correct. I mean, back even then when I started in this business, you had to have the guts of the band, in the same room. You had the artist, if they had a producer, obviously an engineer, the drummer, bass player, you had the band, if you will, the guts of it. We're all in the same room. But yeah, as it's changing, besides doing what I did this morning with him up there is pretty easy. But I've played on albums for people I've never met before, because they can send me tracks from anywhere in the world. Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah. It's pretty neat.
Now, I've seen some of your social media posts where you have, like, for example, you had Mark Mulch singing while you were playing the drums, and you had a
Yes.
guitarist in there.
Yep.
So in that case, you were kind of bringing at least most of the musical elements into the studio.
Yeah, like when we cut Mark's track, you see my vocal booth right behind me here. That's it, where they sing. And on the other side of this wall behind me is where my drums are. You've seen my drum corner. It's like a damn drum shop. But yeah, and I'm sitting on the other side of my building, on the other side of the drums. Yeah, I was behind my drums. Pete was kind of in the middle playing bass. Mark was in the booth. And we basically cut the drums and bass and rhythm guitar for that song all live. It's pretty neat.
Live in the studio.
In the studio, yeah. We did it together. And then Mark re-sang his vocal.
So why do you choose sometimes to do it that way and sometimes to do it with remote tracks, the way you described earlier?
Well, Mark, we were going to do that track remotely, I think, initially, but then Mark was down in Tampa for Music on the Bay, which isn't horribly far from me. I'm only about an hour and a half south of Tampa. So he said, hey, I'm going to be down for Music on the Bay. Why don't we, I could just come down to you. So like that Monday, he came down here. And we just recorded the track live because we could.
Because you could, and it's more fun that way, probably.
Yeah, and I get to do that a lot. Yeah, I get to do that a lot here. We just Steve Bowles just put a new song out. We did his song here. Well, actually, that was just him and I initially. He was in the booth and me behind the drums, and then I sent it to Pete. Yeah, Pete doesn't live too far from me, but he does some stuff at home too. It's easier sometimes than coming here. Yeah.
So tell me more about the Hit Hut. You just described a little bit of the layout there. How big is it? What else goes on there?
The whole building is like 16 by 40. It's actually almost as big as my first house, believe it or not. But I've got my whole mix corner here with all my equipment, and then, like I said, the booth, and then the other side is the drums, and that's pretty much it. We have we've had as many as I think 7 people here. We just cut tracks with for Rudy Cox, you know him, of course, right, Rudy? Mm-hmm. We just did his EP, and it was we had actually I think the most people we ever had recording at one time in my building. It was myself, obviously. Rudy was in the booth. Dave Signs, Jeff was playing bass, stick we call him, and a gentleman named Eugene Moles, who was actually down from Nashville for the weekend, which was really neat. So we got to do basically the whole band. Bass, drums, guitar, lead guitar, and keyboards at the same time in my little studio.
Is that like your favorite? Is that like your favorite thing, to get all those artists into your studio like that?
Well, we don't get like we were just saying, we don't get to do things to that capacity much anymore. So and Dave's very old school. Dave Signs, he's so used to, the man has worked with everybody and their brother. It's so cool. I learn something every time I work with Dave still, and we've been working together for 5 years. So he's like, yeah, we'll just do it all together. I'm like, well, we're going to be cozy in here. My studio is only so big, mm-hmm. But it came out great. I mean, there is something, of course, to be said about doing the rhythm tracks and the guts of something live. I mean, we get it sounding pretty tight. You'd have a hard time. I could show you 2 tracks. One that we did with 5 people in a room, or one that we did with 5 people never in the same room. And you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference, which one is which.
Yeah.
But it's neat.
For you, it's probably more fun to have them in there. And you got that camaraderie going on.
Well, it's fun, but it's also like stressful too, because it's, because you got to make sure everything's working. And I got, there's a lot of channels, probably between the drums, bass, 2 guitars, keyboards, and everything. With Rudy, we were probably running 24 tracks, and then headphone mixes, and so it's a little stressful, but yes, it was so fun, and just like.
Are you like the only employee of Mudcut South Studios? Do you have other people that work with you and help you out with these things, or?
Not really. I mean, when I was up north, I had folks that helped me. My buddy Jeff was always with me up north, but I've been down here full time for 5.5 years, and we've had the studio finished for about 5 years now. So I've been pretty much a one-man show.
That's got to be a lot of work.
It is, but even like that day with Rudy, you got 5 people playing music, and Beth was here actually too. So 6 people. But once everything's up and running, and the headphone cues are good. We can hear, we all have our headphones on and we can all hear each other. Then it's like, boom, 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 next thing you know,
Yeah.
four songs are done. It's kind of crazy.
And you also are owner of MFG Records. And
yes, I recently acquired.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, I recently acquired that from Dave Signs. Dave and Beth started that label. Well, they had it when they were still up north, but when Dave came down here, he wound up doing MFG Records, MFG Tropical, which is the subdivision. And basically, a couple months ago, Dave sat me down and was like, "Hey, I came down here to retire. I'm sure you saw his post. I came down here to retire, and I'm not really retired." So he's like, "We want you to take over the label." I'm like, "Well, okay." I was shocked, but of course, in hindsight, I was realizing that for like the last 2 years, Dave was basically grooming me to take over the label.
Uh-huh.
We still joke about it. I think about it now. It's like, oh, that's what he was doing, But it's cool. I'm very grateful for that. It's so I'm able to take on the clients and the artists that Dave and Beth had already signed, Rudy Cox, Paul Rausch, Mac Martin, Ray Boone, and we're going to be getting some new people on. I'm getting to that now, but it's going to be onward and upward.
So what does that mean with MFG Records? Of course, there are no records anymore. Owning a record label. What does that mean? What is that in addition to all the other work that you do at the studio there?
Well, I'm going to have the label will produce the records, promote the records, but now, so it's really the biggest jump for me was now I have these new artists. Some of them are new. I'm still working with Mac Martin, when I've got these artists under my fingers now, so it's like I can do things with them, and we're talking about doing a compilation of some sort, even though there's really not records or CDs anymore, or we're just going to kind of take MFG and keep it going forward and hopefully branch it out a little bit too.
And MFG stands for?
That's one of the first things. I didn't even know what it was until long ago. Music for Grown-Ups.
Okay.
That was Dave's idea, not mine.
Which is ironic in the Trop Rock world, right?
Isn't it though? Yeah. But I didn't even know what it meant for a while. But then he's like, "Oh yeah, music for grown-ups." It's neat. It's a different thing. And I'm going to make it more of my own thing and bring other people in. So it's fun. I'm looking forward to seeing where we're going to go with it.
And Mudcut South Studios, where did that name come from?
Years ago, before I even had an actual studio, when I lived in Pennsylvania, I had equipment and stuff, and I was working in other studios. But when I first started putting my own studio together, I literally just needed a name for the paperwork. This is probably back in, probably 99 or so. And there's actually it just came to me in a dream one night. It doesn't mean anything. Mudcut is just what came to me, and it's stuck 25 years later. And we were going to rename it when we came down here, but I don't know whether it's just we never came up with something or I'm lazy. I don't know which, but I was like, we're just like, well, let's just do Mudcut South. And
just add the word South.
So, and actually, yeah, and now and even before the blending of Mudcut with the label MFG, Dave Freeman, I'm sure you know who Dave is. Mm-hmm. Keyboard player. Dave works with everybody. Dave Freeman just on a whim one day called it the Hit Hut, and I'm like, oh, I like that.
That's good.
That kind of stuck. That's kind of what we're calling the whole conglomerate of MFG and Mudcut, and it's the Hit Hut.
So when you moved down to Florida and started moved this business down there, has it turned out bigger and better than you ever expected, or is it pretty much right on track with what you were hoping for?
I never imagined, that I would have, from Dave now too, the label and the client's a different thing to manage, but I am doing my own stuff. I have my own clients, remote clients down here, but yeah, I'm pretty pleased with it. The new studio is great. It's not as big as my old studio, but it's certainly prettier, and there's no snow, which is the main thing. Because I was pretty much done with the snow at that point in my life. So here we are.
Right. And you were in, was it Pennsylvania?
Yes, Milford. Yeah. Like the top of New Jersey. I'm from New Jersey originally.
Yeah.
So the whole
tell me about that whole journey, how you got started into this and how you moved from Jersey to Pennsylvania to Florida.
Oh, okay. Well, I was born and raised in New Jersey, and I started playing music when I was very young, like fourth grade. I think I was like 10 or 11 years old. Started playing drums and played through middle school, high school, marching band, jazz band, the whole deal. And I actually went on the road pretty young with my original band, got the whole feel of that, and that surprisingly didn't scare me away at 18. 19 years old. I'm still going now. I went
What was
into
that band called?
that band was called Steel Grass. It was an original band that I had back literally when I was 18. Excuse me. And started traveling with different bands, started record. Well, I actually went into a studio the first time probably when I was still in high school. Well, definitely. I was probably like 16. And I remember the whole studio thing, even though it was a small home studio that this gentleman owned, I was like, oh, I like this, all the knobs and everything. It was like flight control to me. So I started getting into production through a friend of mine named Dave Durr, musical genius and great producer back in the day. And now his company makes really like high-end studio equipment. So got out from behind the drums a little bit and then started, I'm trying to phrase this all up without taking too long. Sorry. And
this is good.
I moved to Pennsylvania when I was like in my early 20s. And so I had a little more room, had my own house, and that's why I started getting more equipment. And then in the garage on that property, we built my first studio out in, I believe it was 2004. So I had that facility and, I had bands coming from all over. But we talked about moving to Florida for years. But then in the late, like 2015, 2016 and whatnot, so many artists, excuse me, so many artists started doing the remote thing with me. Even some of my clients in New Jersey, they were just emailing stuff because it was easier. So I started thinking to myself, I could, I don't need my New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania based clientele to make a living doing production. So that's when we started looking into moving down here. And the next page in 2019, we just decided to do it. We did it, thank God, before the shutdown and everything. And
Right.
we got into our house in October of 2019 down here in Englewood. Got the studio done and built not much after that in the summer of 2020, amongst all the insanity. And here it is. It's great. I love it. It's a great
Beautiful.
facility. Yeah, that's how I wound up down here and doing production.
Now, somewhere in that journey, you were also spent a lot of time on cruise ships, as I understand.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I started doing cruise ships, just little short blasts many, many years ago. Started with Norwegian and then some Disney stuff. But 2 years ago, I actually signed on as a guest artist with Virgin cruise ships. Virgin is its own different thing, as you can well imagine. It's a really cool cruise line. Got to work with a blues band out there. That was a lot of fun. Still doing that. Going to go back to doing that probably in 26. It's not a full-time thing for me, obviously. I'll go do a couple weeks here, a couple weeks there.
Nice.
It's not a bad gig though. I spent a month in Greece last summer, with Virgin. That was amazing. If you've ever had a chance to go to Greece, I highly recommend it.
And what's your role on the cruise ship musically?
With that particular band, I was just playing drums and singing. It wasn't part of the production team or anything like that. A lot of times when I do travel dates, I'm just drumming or playing percussion or whatever. But here's where I kind of run things at home here.
Mm-hmm. And did you also were a member of a beach band? Did I see something about that? Or you had a band? You're looking at me perplexed, like I got that one wrong.
A beach band? What do you mean? Like
I can't.
What do you mean?
I didn't write it down. I just remember reading you. You were a member of a band for a while, a specific band.
Oh yeah, up in New Jersey. Parrot Beach was the name of the band. I should have.
That's it.
Parrot
Okay,
Beach.
that was it.
Yeah, that I literally, basically to this day I still play with them sometimes. This time last year I was actually up in New Jersey doing a whole slew of shows with them. They are basically a Buffett tribute and an island, reggae band. I literally joined that band in June of 2000. Half my life ago. Yeah, it was great. I mean, I was raised on Buffett's music, so I kind of knew this stuff already. And they were older. God, if Remy hears this, he's going to kill me. But, they were very kind of reluctant to hire a 25-year-old, in their band. But I think it worked out pretty well. That band, I started with that band, like I said, in 2000. And then in 2004, the name changed from Parrotville to Parrot Beach. And then I played in that band for like almost the last 25 years, almost straight. Even since I moved here, I still go up and do shows with them.
So you do have the beach music thing inside of you. I mean, it's part of who you are.
I grew up on a lake. I grew up on a lake water skiing, and I'm a water baby, even from up there and now especially. Yeah. But yeah, I have it in me, no doubt.
Are there certain... Go ahead.
Sorry. No, and then of course this Buffett stuff. Like I said, my uncle Kenny, who was my dad's brother, was a huge Parrot hit, and I literally remember as a kid him playing the records for me, like pulling out the records and putting them on, which is cool. So and I've got to work with all of Buffett's band. I'm friends with all those guys: Jim Mayer, Peter, Mac, Robert, Ralph when he was with us. It's kind of crazy. Jimmy's passed, Ralph's passed, but I was also lucky to be kind of friends with Buffett too. To see him down in St. Bart's all the time, and that was always a trip. If you would have told me that when I was a kid that I'd be friends with him one day, I would have told you were crazy. But here we are.
Tell me a little bit more about that. Do you have a favorite Jimmy Buffett story?
Oh God, there's lots of them from down there in St. Bart's. But I think one of the funniest ones was the night he was playing there, and of course we weren't because he was playing. He kind of takes over when he's there, and he broke a string as he was playing it. So I grabbed the gentleman I was down there playing with, the little band. I grabbed his guitar because he didn't mind, and I gave it to Jimmy. And of course I said, "Do you have any other strings in your bag?" And of course he looks at me and goes, "I don't know." So I look in his bag, and there were strings in there. So I changed the string for him, and a couple songs later gave the guitar back to him. And in his infamous crazy tone, he goes, "Oh, you tuned it too?" I was like, "No, I'm going to give it to you out of tune." And he gives me that rock look. He always like he wanted to call me a smart ass, but wouldn't. That kind of, Well, yeah, Jimmy was, an amazing guy, a real sweetheart of a guy. And I was blessed to have those small chances to hang out with him. Right. And talk, music and family. Like, he's a regular dude,
Right. So you mentioned St. Bart's. Why St. Bart's? Why were you in St. Bart's and he in St. Bart's at the same time?
Well, he has a place down there. He's been singing songs about that place, as you know, for many, 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 many years. Mm-hmm. And I play down there. I did. They had the Storms down there and stuff. But the place I used to play at is this world-renowned place called the Baz Bar. I'm sure you've seen it. All the videos from Jimmy playing down in St. Bart's when he just shows up are all there. And I was very fortunate to play at that bar for many, many. It's right in Gustavia Harbor. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful places in the world. And it just happened a number of times I was down there, he was down there. So, initially it was kind of funny. Initially it was funny. He would see me down there. He kind of like, the hell's he doing here? Like, he kind of remembered who I was because I played with Mac and all that. So it was funny, but yeah, it was always neat to have those, times down there with him.
All right. Are there some certain songs that you've worked on as a drummer or a producer that you're most proud of or most excited about?
Oh, that's a tough question. Well, currently this song we have out with my boy Monallo, called the Moonlight. I'm sure you know that's out, featuring G Love and Special Sauce. Me and James even being his, Monallo. Monallo's name is James, just in case you didn't know. So that's that confusion. Yeah. But some people don't. It even confuses my wife sometimes. I'll say Monallo, then I'll say James, and she'll be like, "Could you just pick one, please?"
I think it confuses him sometimes too.
Yeah. It certainly confuses people, but Jax is not my real name either. So here we are. It's a nickname, but no, we're super proud of that track, Moonlight, with G Love, because the funniest part about if you've ever heard him talk about it, when we first tracked that song, Moonlight, and his next single, which is coming out next month, we didn't really plan on having any special guests with it. It just we were just doing it. But whatever happened, we were like, we should. So he's like, I think I'm going to look up G Love, because he worked with people who know G Love from his camp and everything. So he looked him up, and G was like, yeah, send me the song. If I like it, I'd love to do it. Well, we sent it to him. He loved it, so he did it, and it was just a whole nother thing. It was neat because you know, I'm kind of in trop rock. James is new to the whole trop rock thing, but this was kind of a not so troppy song, but it fit. But the G Love thing was just like a whole nother market. It's like that jam band Philly thing. So it was neat to do something way out of the box. I think we really surprised people. People were thinking it was going to be a trop rock artist was the special guest or someone from Jimmy's band, but we really went a full left turn with it. So I'm super proud of that song. It's still doing really well. We just got that Radio 41, which is down by us here. I think it's based in Cape Coral. It's like the radio station down here in South Jersey. Moonlight has been top, the #1 song for the last 5 weeks. So that's pretty.
That's amazing.
We're super proud of that. And of course, it's on Radio Trop Rock. It's on, Tiki Man. It's everywhere, So we're very proud of that track. But
and
I've also
you put that all together at the Hit Hut, and
yeah,
G Love was a remote track, right?
Yeah, he did that from his place in Philly, I believe. Yeah, so that was neat. Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that goes on in that Hit Hut that brings it all together.
Yeah, super proud of that track. Yeah.
You mentioned your nickname, Jax. Where did that come from?
There's not really an exciting story about it. It just I needed a nickname back when, again, talking about Remy, Parrot Beach, Parrotville, they all have kind of like nicknames and whatnot. And I had that name from a friend of mine, believe it or not, from Australia, from when I was younger. So there's really no like big story behind it. I just needed to adapt something. I had it earlier, so I just went with it. And now it's funny, a lot of the Buffett people and Trop Rock people, if you said my real name, they probably wouldn't even know it. They just know me as Jax. So it's kind of funny. But it's worked out for me, so it's all right.
I wanted to ask about technology some more. With things such as remote tracking and AI, it's changed a lot over the last number of years. But AI in particular has just been exploding in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Does AI influence your work in some ways?
I mean, I think it's going to, if it hasn't already, it's kind of inevitable with songwriting even. I mean, directly with me, I don't know. I mean, I'm maybe it's just a hope of mine. I'm trying to equate it along the lines of, years ago, you had a studio, everybody had home studios, but it was nice to be me, because even if people had home studios, didn't have the proper equipment to record drums, because obviously you need more than 2 inputs and stuff. So I was kind of like the last of the old school. I think I kind of still am, because even a lot of the producers I work with now don't have the capacity to do drums, which is great because it works out good for me. I'm thinking of the same thing. I think for me, there's guitar loops and there's all this crazy stuff and this AI thing for songwriting, but I'm hoping I'm going to have at least a little bit more of a window before I get replaced by AI drummers. I guess that's my thinking on it.
So when you say get replaced, how would that come about if and when it came about? What are you referring to there?
I think AI eventually, just like there's, guitar loops and keyboard loops and stuff that drum loops, of course, I have my own. I think eventually I would be foolish not to think that eventually you're not going to be able to feed even an iPhone recording of a song, guitar and vocal, into a computer, and it's going to be able to spit out a drum track for you. I have no doubt that's going to happen. No doubt in my mind. I just hope it doesn't happen anytime soon.
And right. And as a professional drummer, what's your feeling about that? Is that a bad thing, a step down, versus the personal drumming that is so important to a song?
Well, overall, it's like that age-old, I had the bumper sticker for many years, that drum machines have no soul.
Exactly.
I'm not going to lie, I personally know people, let alone out there in the world, who can program drums, with a drum machine or an online or, whatever, and make it sound really good. Sometimes to the point where I have to listen like, oh, is that real? Because they're good. So... Yeah, I mean, it's going to happen. I don't know when or how it's going to affect me.
It is happening. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt it's going to happen. But it's
and
also.
You mentioned.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
But also, I hate to say this, I also think it, like guitar loops and drum loops and stuff, it's going to help with the songwriting as long as people don't overuse it. If somebody just says, hey, give me a groove for this song, and then they can work on their song off of it, I think that's great. But if they're going to do these AI things for, albums and stuff, that's just kind of cutting out the artists,
Right. Like you say, it's taking the soul out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So from the perspective of a professional drummer, how important are drums and percussion in general to the success of a song?
Oh, I think it's very important. I mean, it's the heartbeat. I mean, you look, ska music, reggae music, like you think I'm just trying to think the tribal music, if you will, whether it's in Africa or Native American, always had the heartbeat, that that boom, but that's the music. The drums is the heartbeat of all music, I think. So I think it's extremely important. I mean, I'm not reinventing the wheel with a lot of the stuff I do. I mean, trop rock and reggae and rock stuff, straight ahead stuff I do, but I think it sounds and feels better when there's human beings playing drums, bass, percussion. I think it definitely has more of a life to it. But I think drums are very important. I mean, it's usually the first thing. If you're cutting a record, it's usually the first thing that gets done is the groove. That's the start of it.
Right.
So,
and
I think
go ahead.
No, I think it's extremely important.
And what distinguishes you as a drummer? Does every drummer have their own drummer personality, per se?
Oh yeah, I mean, drummers, like vocalists, guitar players, everybody sounds different. I mean, I could to the same tracks, even to the same, guitar, bass, everything. I could play drums to something, and somebody else could play drums to something, and it could have a totally different feel. A lot of what I do, I'm sure you know this, like when I do fly gigs with artists, like you said, I work with Donny Brewer, Tom Shepard, guys I'm not really in their band. I have a whole slew of their songs I know already, and then sometimes I learn other things for event. But then, I'm basically emulating what's on the record. Sometimes exactly, sometimes in my own little way, but it always has a different feel depending on who's playing it.
Right. So if you had two drummers playing the same song, it would sound different because there's no specific track for drumming, right?
Yeah. I mean, even I think sometimes when I'm playing live a track that I played in the studio, it has a different feeling because the tempo is not the same. The energy is different. There may not be a click track. We can kind of go our own tempo. It's always different.
I just saw a video of you and Monallo playing at the A1A Beach Bash. Actually, you were in the television studio.
Oh yeah,
in Jacksonville, right? That's where it was.
Yep.
And you were playing what I think is called a Cajun drum.
Yeah. So the drum is a cajon. I basically sit on it, and then if you're gonna play it the proper way, if you're supposed to play it with your hands. That's the way they play it. South America, wherever the drum came from, or the Caribbean, I don't even know. But I play it with those whip things. They're like a mixture between a jazz brush and a drumstick. And then actually, I don't know if you saw the videos from the Beach Bash itself. When I play with Monallo, a lot of times I also have a snare drum and cymbals and stuff too with that drum that I play with a pedal, like a bass drum. So it's like that's like the middle point between just the cajon that you saw on the TV station and a full drum set. It's like that middle road.
And the nice thing about the cajon is it's just very, very portable, and that's probably why you took it into the TV studio.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It still sounds great.
Yeah, it's neat. It makes a lot of noise for something that's so simple. I always joke with that cajon drum that drum has traveled more than most people I know. It's been around the world.
Right. So tell me about your family and your life in Florida.
I love it down here. I mean, my wife, obviously my 4 kids, we have a beautiful home down here, and my studio in the backyard, which is convenient. I can just walk out my screen door and 100 feet out to my studio. So it's nice when I'm home, I can still get work done, and I'm not always traveling.
Right.
But
And there's a lot of gigs in the area there that you can do. In
I really don't
Southwest Florida.
gig. Yeah, I really don't gig around here that much.
No.
No, and right or wrong, blue or green, a lot of studio stuff I do, and then most of the gigs I do, I travel. I either go, up to Orlando. I do a lot of stuff up there, East Coast. And then I got fly dates, of course, with Tom Shepard, Monallo, Donny Brewer. I do a lot of fly dates and travel dates. Who else do I work with? A lot of people. And I got some stuff coming up this summer with Monallo. I just did a couple things with Tom Shepard, Lone Star Luau, and all that. And of course, I got some more dates, fly dates and stuff with my buddy Jesse Rice. I work with Jesse too.
Yes. Yep.
So, but a lot of stuff with James this summer with Monallo and getting the record done too. Because besides Moonlight, like I said, it's been out for a little bit. We have Lover's Key coming out next month, which is the new single. And then we've already got 4 or 5 more songs done towards the record, which is going to be out probably in the winter.
Awesome. Look forward to that.
So, it's cool.
So at the meeting of the minds last year, you were up for Musician of the Year, I think was it the 3rd time?
No, 3rd or 4th, yeah.
Yeah. So what does that mean to you?
Oh, it's cool. I mean, it's even just to get the nod is so nice, especially with John Patty and Johnny Dew. Mark Morellis has been nominated. Brad Brewer. These guys are my buddies and my fellow musicians. So it's so cool to even just get the nod. I appreciate it. I mean, it's I get to do a lot of different styles of music and realms of music, but I love my Buffett people, so it's nice to get the nod from people. Maybe one day I'll win. Who knows?
I wouldn't be surprised. In fact, I would expect it. And I love your reference to the Buffett people.
Yeah, my people. That's what Jimmy would always say when he would come out at Baz Bar. Baz Bar was a small little place. I mean, wasn't a big restaurant. He would just always come out and go, "My people."
Awesome. So you mentioned some of the things you're working on. I was going to ask about that as you look down the road. What new ventures do you have or new goals that you want to achieve?
Oh, I got a lot of stuff going on. Monallo's thing is a big thing for me right now. I'm most like personally and tied with Monallo. He and I, I work with a lot of different artists and I'm appreciative of all of them. But Monallo and I are kind of a team. He used to say, "I am Monallo," but now he says, "We are Monallo." So it's me and him sometimes me and him and Pete, our bass player, and with the record going on. And we've got some big things in the works, doing some dates with some bigger artists and I can't really give too much away here, but it's coming soon. Some new deals and some new venues and things we're going to be playing. So it's very exciting. But yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of stuff coming out. I just had a song come out with Mark Mulch too and Steve Bowles. I'm currently working on an EP for Rudy Cox, Mac Martin, of course, Monallo's stuff. That Justin Culver track that I'm literally working on right now. That's a really cool song. That's his first endeavor, I think, into Trop Rock. And this song is going to be, the Trop Rock people are going to eat this up. It's a real good beach song. I'm excited about that. But yeah, I mean, and like I said, I've got some traveling going on this year, corporate stuff, some stuff with Jesse. Yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be a good year.
It's unbelievable how much stuff you have going on. Unbelievable.
Keeps me out of trouble for the most part.
Is there anything else you want people to know about Alan Jax Bowers that we haven't talked about?
I feel bad I only spoke so briefly about my wife and kids, but no, my wife is amazing. For those of the people who are watching this have met my wife, she's amazing, and she's tolerant of me, having my giant man cave out here. And, oh, honey, you're going to go to Greece for a month without me? Okay, have fun, She's fantastic, and my kids are great. My kids are almost 9, 15, 17, and 18. I got one going away to school this fall, which is a real, I feel like we just brought her home the other day, and now she's 18 and going off to college to be a pilot. It's like, but I'm extremely blessed to have my beautiful wife and my amazing kids, and I just, I don't know what I did to get this, but I'm glad I did it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again, Alan Jax Bowers, for being my guest on the Beach Maniac Island Music Podcast. I look forward to seeing you down the road, and maybe, just maybe, I can get a tour of your hit hut next winter when I'm back down in your area.
Anytime. Come on down.
That would be awesome. I would love that.
Excellent.
All right. Well, thanks again, and we will see you down the road.
Thanks, Bill.
All right. Thank you again, Alan Jax Bowers, for joining me on the Beach Maniac Island Music Podcast. For more information about Jax, visit beachmaniac.com, where this podcast is housed, and where you will find both an audio and video podcast, along with some video clips, a blog with a podcast transcript, and links to Jax's website, Facebook page, and Instagram account. You'll also find the video podcast on YouTube. Just search for the Beach Maniac Island Music Podcast. And thanks to everyone for joining me, Bill Hurley, the Beach Maniac, as we go behind the scenes and explore the magic behind the music. For more about me and my passion, visit beachmaniac.com or contact me at bill@beachmaniac.com. Remember, whether you're soaking up the sun or catching the waves, we hope you're feeling those good beach vibes. Until next time, keep the sand between your toes and the ocean breeze in your hair. Stay safe, stay cool, and we'll catch you on the next wave. Suit ties for sandals and caps. Won't ever go back.